With the impending death of Spirit Airlines, Democratic lawmakers are running from their decision to block a merger that would have allowed JetBlue to acquire the now defunct airline. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas herself, came out and tried to say that it wasn't her decision to back the lawsuit to block the merger that killed Spirit. It was the high fuel prices that did it. Sure, that makes sense, except for the fact that JetBlue and Spirit together would have been able to absorb the increased cost of fuel. And in 2024, the year following the blocked merger, Spirit had to declare bankruptcy twice, and this is well before those fuel prices spiked. I guess in hindsight, preventing airline companies from making their own decisions isn't the, quote, Biden win for flyers Warren thought it was. If she was a real Indian, I guess she'd know that you can't put the top back on once you've claimed the scalp. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Okay, hello all you beautiful people out there. I have two topics that we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about the death of Spirit Airlines, and then we're going to talk about this viral moment from Marco Rubio that I think was excellent this week. I saw some people who, let me adjust this camera, my gosh, what's going on? I saw some people this week who didn't like it, and I thought that was strange, but I thought it was excellent. So we're going to play a clip from Marco Rubio, then we're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, we're going to do my favorite comment from last week. There were two of them that were tied together. It was hard to pick, but I'm just going to talk about this first one. It says, quote, he was a registered Republican, not a leftist. Now, that is the quote about the alleged Trump shooter. Do we have to say alleged when he very clearly was running through the thing? I think we probably still do. Anyway, this last Trump assassination. Guys, he wasn't a registered Republican. He was a leftist. Okay, well, let's go into that because that's just obviously patently false. What can we say about him? So the guy, we're not going to say his name, but he was registered to vote. These are absolute facts. This is not theory. He was registered to vote. He was actually not registered as a Democrat or Republican. You don't need to do that in the state that he's in. He just was registered to vote. So he's not a registered Republican because he's not registered Democrat either. However, what do we know about his political persuasion? Well, he had yard signs in his yard that supported Democrat candidates. The only political contribution he ever made was to the Kamala Harris campaign. We know, according to his manifesto, that he is pro-immigration, anti-ICE, anti the Trump foreign policy in Venezuela. He's anti-Iran. He hates all the Republican members of the administration except for Kash Patel. And, he tried to assassinate the Republican president of the United States. It's just crazy towns that people actually believe this. Somebody online said he's a Republican. It's just like the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter. They're like, oh, he was a Republican. He was out there doing it. No, he was not. He wasn't. He absolutely wasn't. Just like this guy. He's not a Republican. This guy's a Democrat. He's a far leftist. He's a crazy person, but he also has leftist political beliefs. This isn't a false flag. It's not a plant. It's not Republicans going after their own because they hate Trump. Republicans don't hate Trump. Look at his polling. Republicans love Trump. And it's just silly. It's just silly that people want to say, well, it's not the left that's doing this. It absolutely is the left. The left is violent. The left has been violent for a decade. That whole podcast last week was about leftist violence and how it is the problem in the country. Right-wing violence doesn't exist on scale the way left-wing violence does. We have to pretend that it's a both sides issue. It's not. It's a left sides issue. The left is violent. The right is not. That's just the way it is. And people have to try and point to someone like this and say, well, he doesn't represent the left. He is absolutely the epitome of the left. The left is violent. The left is the wanting death of Donald Trump. It is the wishful thinking that every day you could wake up and you'll read his obituary. That is the left. They do not wish the best things. I hate Joe Biden's presidency. I think Joe Biden's a bad person. I think he's an immoral person. I do. I think that he has this sort of facade that has been plastered on him by people who think he's some old smiling grandpa, just a nice guy. Joe Biden, he loves his family. No, Joe Biden's a bad dude. He did a lot of corrupt things, and he is a dishonest person. I don't wish him death. I don't wish anything bad for him. And when he was president, I wished him success. But people don't do that with Trump, and it's definitely a quality of the left that is ridiculous. Anyway, let's get into topic one, the death of Spirit Airlines. So, Spirit Airlines, I've never flown Spirit. I refuse to degrade myself in such a manner. However, I understand it's a relatively cheap way to fly. The airline is officially dismantling. It's been around for about 30 plus years, 3 decades, over 3 decades, and it is one of the more budget-friendly airlines. So the problem with this is just got a little rant, not even in my notes, I just hate it. Spirit, the reason why it's so cheap is that if you don't value your time at all, sure, it's cheap. Oh, hey, it's going to cost me $250 to fly round trip from here to Tampa, but if I go through Spirit, it's only going to cost me $100. And the difference is only I have to spend 86 hours in the airport because it's 18 connecting flights, and they're going to lose my luggage, and I'm going to be stranded in Nebraska trying to get to Tampa, but I saved that $100. I hate Spirit. I hate that idea. Like, the money is the time, guys. Like, you're paying more money to save your time. Like, that's the way it works, because if you don't value your time at all, Spirit is great. You can. It's just like a lot of these Frontier flights. Oh, I could take Frontier anywhere. Yeah, if you want to spend 6 days in the airport to go from A to B, you can take Frontier, you can take Spirit. Some people love it because it's a cheap way to fly. Hey, great. If it's the way that you could afford to fly and you want to fly somewhere, I understand your frustration with the closure of Spirit. But that's just a digression. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Now, the actual dismantling of Spirit Airlines is going to, I feel like my microphone sounds weird. It's going to take months. It's going to take months to dismantle the airline. It was the 9th biggest airline in the United States. That's based on the number of seats. So, you add up all the inventory they have, and it's the 9th largest based on how many people could fly theoretically in Spirit. In February of this year, Spirit had a 3.9% market share. Last February, it was 5.1%. And this month, May, it is projected to be about 1.8%. So they were on the downhill slide, and it had been coming for a while. Now, the day that they shut down, they actually flew 50,000 people on their airline the day of the closure, and 17,000 people lost their jobs the day that they said that they're done. Now, there was talk of a government bailout of Spirit Airlines. This is something that Donald Trump's into. This is a part of the Trump policy, or I don't know if it's necessarily his policy, but this is part of the Trump philosophy that I disagree with strongly. I do not think it's the government's business to buy up private enterprise to have state-run companies. He did this. There was talk about the steel industry. I think he did this with, American Iron or American Steel. What is the name of the company? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. But he does this. Trump's idea is that, he just wants to fix things. And he says he's looking at the government like he's a businessman, which in a lot of ways has been great. And he has ideas for the economy that are excellent. And because he comes in with this businessman savvy and he has different ideas, he's done some very interesting things. One of the ways that it doesn't work is that in his private life, Donald Trump would look at a business like Spirit and say, it's going bankrupt. We can get it for a steal. And he would buy it, and then he'd try and turn it around, or he'd go and sell it for a profit, or he'd do these things. It's not the government's job to buy defunct companies or run them. We don't want state-run companies, guys. I don't know how to tell you this. That's socialist. We don't want that. We don't want Donald Trump to do these things. So the government floated a $500 million bailout that would have basically given the government a 90% stake in the company. So the Spirit, the profit, the shareholders would still have 10%. The government would have owned the airline. We don't need this, and it fell through. So I'm glad it did. It's a bad idea. Donald Trump shouldn't do these things. Again, as a private businessman, this is what made him great. And all the people, you see these absolute dum-dums on the internet who want to talk about Donald Trump failing at things. It's just like the Trump casino. It's just like Trump steaks. It's just like Trump socks, whatever the hell. And the reality is that Donald Trump has had a lot of business ventures, and many of them have failed. But he also is the president of the United States and an incredibly successful real estate mogul, and he was the number one thing on television, and he has won more than anyone else in life. So the idea is he failed a lot because he tried a lot, and failure isn't a bad thing. It's not bad to fail. It's bad to not try, and he has ideas, and he tried different things, And so when someone says, he's a terrible businessman because look at all these companies that failed, you go, yeah, look at the ones that didn't. Elon Musk, I believe Elon Musk started something like 10 to 15 companies before he was in PayPal. Elon Musk had, 10 to 15 companies. Elon Musk, guys, the richest person who's ever lived. What a terrible businessman. Can you believe he had 15 companies fold up? No, and people don't understand that when you're an ambitious person, you fail a lot. Like ambitious people, they fail all the time. And they do that because they're pursuing something greater than themselves. And when you do that, you're going to fail. So Donald Trump's failed a lot. It doesn't make him a bad businessman. Look at where he is in life. He's the most powerful person in the world. Clearly not a failure. So anyway, the government shouldn't be bailing out failing businesses. Again, another digression. It shouldn't be bailing out failing businesses. I'm glad it fell through. Now, so the airline is done. It's done for them. It's going to take months to dismantle, but it is done. Spirit is gone. Why did this happen, and why do we care? Obviously, we would have cared about the bailout, but why do we care now? Well, I care because this is a prime example of government intervention that absolutely has the opposite effect of what it intends. This is the unforeseen consequences of bad decision making, where you come out with something, and because you come out and try and do something noble, when it has bad consequences, you go, but we were trying to do something good. Yes, it's why you don't interfere where you don't belong, because unintended consequences are a real thing. So Spirit the airline tried to sell itself twice. It basically got in a bidding war, and the bidding war, originally Frontier was going to buy it, and then JetBlue was going to do this hostile takeover of Spirit, and they tried to fight it a little bit, but eventually JetBlue offered so much money that Spirit couldn't sell to Frontier, and they ultimately were going to sell themselves to JetBlue. $3.8 billion JetBlue offered for all of Spirit. But neither airline was allowed to purchase Spirit. It was blocked by Frontier and then JetBlue because the Biden DOJ opposed the merger. Now, what happened is the U.S. Department of Justice, they sued to block this deal because they said it violated antitrust laws. And this was supported by all of the high-profile Democrats you can think of. Elizabeth Warren, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Rashida Tlaib, Katie Porter, Pete Buttigieg. They all signed on to a letter that basically opposed the buying from, it was Frontier and JetBlue. So they wrote a letter about Frontier, but they both said the same thing when it eventually got blocked with JetBlue. So here's exactly what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can get this. Can I zoom out? No, I can't. Okay. So take a look. This is the letter that the Democrats wrote to the Department of Justice. So it's as on the letterhead, Congress of the United States. It's addressed to Secretary Buttigieg and the Assistant Attorney General. And basically, it goes through here, if you're looking at it, it's saying that when Frontier is going to buy Spirit, it's not going, and to create the fifth largest airline in the country, it is going to be a detriment to budget-conscious consumers. So they wrote in here, they oppose the merger for all these different reasons. They say, and as opposed to creating more competition, this is going to create less competition. It's more of a monopoly. And because of that, it's going to hurt the people who are travel friendly. And so we can't because this is bad for consumers, we have to oppose the merger. And you scroll down here, and they're saying, oh yeah, this is all. So basically, they wrote this letter. It's 5 or 6 pages. And then they all signed it. So you can see this is Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Katie Porter. I don't really know who these people are. Where's Ben Ray? Where's this guy from? I'm not 100% sure on that one. But anyway, so you had all these Democrats who come out and they support this. They say the Biden DOJ, they are doing the right thing. They're blocking this merger. Now, they argued that the consolidation was going to hurt the budget-friendly consumers because the idea is that Spirit is for people who don't have money. That's what it is. You're not flying. There's no billionaire hopping on the Spirit flight. Spirit flights are terrible, okay? The leg room in a Spirit airline, it's 28 inches from seat to seat. The standard in the airline industry is 32 inches. Now, 4 inches might not sound like a lot of space. It's a lot of space. Spirit has tiny seats. They cram people in there, and that's how they keep the ticket prices low, and they charge you for everything. You know, there's no snacks. There's no drinks. You're not getting your luggage for free. You're not doing nothing. It's all, everything is nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime. So if you just hop on there with the shirt on your back and you're fine standing up in your seat for the 18 hours you're going to be on the plane, it's a great airline. But whatever. So the Attorney General, then when they sue, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, side note, thank President Trump. Actually, thank Mitch McConnell. Thank Mitch McConnell that Merrick Garland didn't wind up on the Supreme Court, this dunderhead. So Merrick Garland came out and said, quote, "We allege that if allowed to proceed, this merger will limit choices and drive up ticket prices for passengers across the country," end quote. That is from the Attorney General himself, Merrick Garland. It's absolute nonsense. First of all, not government business. But also, antitrust doesn't even make sense here. The idea that somehow this is going to create less competition in the marketplace. Let me tell you something. Spirit Airlines, when I told you, I read the market share that they had a 5% last year. I don't know if in 2022 it was more, but 5%, I don't know if you know this, guys, 5%, hardly the giant share in the market that would limit competition. Well, hold on, but why would they oppose it? Because 4 airlines already own 80% of the market. American, Delta, Southwest, and United have 80% of domestic flights in the United States take place on one of those 4. So anyone who's booking a ticket is already booking on one of 4 airlines. This would have taken Frontier or JetBlue and Spirit, and it would have created a 5th large airline. Now, see if you can follow me here, because I'm going to get into, this is some complicated stuff. And I wish I could have talked to the Attorney General before he did this, because I could have explained this to him. We got to do math here. Now, when you're creating less competition, the number 4 would probably go down to 3. But you see, when I take 4 and I combine JetBlue and Spirit, I create 5. Now, you see, that's when the thumb comes out. And when the thumb comes out, that's actually more competition. I wish I could have told Merrick Garland this. I wish I could have explained to him that this doesn't create less competition in the marketplace. Now, they're saying that the combination of 2 airlines actually is a limiting choice, because we're taking 2 airlines and we're combining them, guys. Do you understand? And Spirit Airline, that's for the poor people. And we can't take something away from the poor people who use Spirit Airlines, because that'd be bad. It doesn't work that way. Because if you already have an 80% cap on the market, you already have an 80% share of the market, having somebody else force their way into these places where you can get competition on flights would lower the price of all of the flights. We're not talking about budget-friendly, I can pay $16 and fly on a kite to Mississippi. I'm talking about an actual nice plane that I can fly in that's a little bit cheaper, because now there's a 5th airline that's competing with the big 4. The big 4 are the problem. The problem is not that we have a bunch of, I have a guy with a twin prop plane who's going to take me up and fly down to the bayou. That's not the problem. If we had 1,000 of those guys, it wouldn't fix the airline travel industry. What we need are more big airlines. And so this would have given us another big airline that would have forced everyone to, again, have more competition in the actual marketplace. The marketplace isn't for $20 flights. The marketplace is for actual flights like Delta, Southwest, United, and American provide. And somehow the DOJ didn't get this. So they win. They win the lawsuit. The federal judge blocks the merger. It's a win for the consumers everywhere. Elizabeth Warren came out, and I said the quote in the intro, but said, quote, "This is a Biden win for flyers," end quote. That's Elizabeth Warren. All of these people are now running away from their decision to block this merger. They're all trying to blame Trump. It's Trump's fault, guys. Listen, I know that we stopped the legitimate acquisition of 2 airlines that would have saved the company, and it's like we couldn't see the future. We didn't know. Well, again, unintended consequences. We were trying to help the budget-friendly consumer. How does it help them that their airline now doesn't exist at all? It could have existed in some form, merged with JetBlue. No. Instead, it doesn't exist. Now, 17,000 people lose their jobs. And they're saying, well, it's Donald Trump's fault. He started this unnecessary, unconstitutional, illegal, genocidal war in Iran, and the fuel prices have gone up, and that's what did it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not true. Yes, it might be the nail in the coffin for Spirit, but Spirit was already on its trend. I read you the numbers. They were trending downward. The market isn't there for their kind of airline. The budget-friendly airline is not a profitable business in the same way. The model doesn't work anymore. And they were already trending down, and they already declared bankruptcy twice. They were on the verge of being defunct 2 years ago. By my math, 2 years ago, who was the president? It wasn't Donald Trump, and it wasn't the war in Iran, because that also didn't exist. It was because they weren't allowed to merge and their airline was in trouble. So it's ridiculous that they think that it's going to be Donald Trump's. They're going to be able to run away from it. No, Elizabeth Warren, like I said, you don't get to put the scalp back on the head, arrange the hair. It doesn't work that way. You took the scalp, you claimed it, you said, we did this, guys. We stopped the merger. You don't get to walk it back. It doesn't go that way. Like I said, it might be the slow clap for the geniuses in Congress. They truly are the best among us. And this kind of stuff, it's why the government needs to be smaller, because when you interfere in private enterprise, it doesn't work out the way that they intend almost ever. It's a bad thing for the government to do. And that's why I don't want Trump to try and swoop in there and buy defunct companies. If a company is failing, it should die away. It's like the bank bailouts in 2008. We never should have bailed out the banks. What we should have done is say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the $800 billion, however much we spent on the bailouts, and anyone who had money in a bank that is going to go bankrupt, we're going to give you the money. We're going to work with the banks. We're going to figure out the accounts. We're going to go through it all. We're going to get you your money, and we'll actually bail out the people and let those companies fold up and die. And that's what we should have done. And that's what we should do with Spirit. We shouldn't have anything to do with buying an airline. That's silly, silly stuff. Anyway, as I can to summarize, it's all Elizabeth Warren's fault. So we'll just leave that there. Let's go on to topic 2, the Marco Rubio clip that is going viral here. I'm pulling it up real quick. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, I don't know, the president of Cuba. He wears a lot of hats. This man, he does a lot of things. I think he was the border czar for like 5 minutes. He does everything in the administration that they need. They're just like, we'll put Marco on it. There's a great meme that goes around. It just shows him dressed as various things. You can see him dressed as a plumber or dressed as an electrician. And he just like, Marco has all the jobs. But primarily, he's the Secretary of State. And I used to be indifferent. I won't say not like. I used to be indifferent towards Marco Rubio until really his role in this administration that has allowed him to shine. And he is incredibly competent. I will say that. This guy, he is great on messaging, very articulate, gets across the points, not overly hostile, but contentious when he needs to be. I really like Marco Rubio. I didn't used to. And again, not that I disliked him, it's just that I didn't get it. And he has impressed me greatly in this second Trump administration. I think his leadership as the Secretary of State is top-notch, and we align very, very strongly on our foreign policy views, which I feel like I don't necessarily with J.D. Vance. So I'm saying I like Marco Rubio. He gave a press briefing. I guess Carolyn Leavitt was out. He gave a press briefing this week, and during the press briefing, during the Q&A, someone asked him a question, and his answer went viral. And I think it went viral for all the right reasons. Some people didn't like it. We'll get into that. But I want to play the clip because if you didn't see it, you should listen to it. This is great. This is Marco Rubio. It's a little bit of a long clip, but you'll be fine.
Back row, yellow tie. Back row,
Secretary,
yeah.
CBN News, you've had a deep faith for God and country. At the end of the day, with all that you've been involved in,
keep going.
You've been extremely busy.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
As we all know. I got to ask you, what is your hope for America at a time such as this?
My hope for America?
And how do you personally deal with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, my hope for America is what it's always been. I think it's the hope I hope we all share. We want it to continue to be the place where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, where you're not limited by the circumstances of your birth, by the color of your skin, by your ethnicity, but frankly, it's a place where you are able to overcome challenges and achieve your full potential. I think that should be the goal of every country in the world, frankly, but I think in the U.S., we're not perfect. Our history is not one of perfection, but it's still better than anybody else's history, and ours is a story of perpetual improvement. Each generation has left the next generation of Americans freer, more prosperous, safer, and that is our goal as well. But it is a unique and exceptional country, and as we come upon this 250-year anniversary, I think we have a lot to learn and be proud of in our history. It is one of perpetual and continuous improvement, where each generation has done its part to bring us closer to fulfilling the vision that the founders of this country had upon its founding. So,
Okay, just a little 1-minute clip of Marco Rubio talking. I love this. I really do. I think this is great. I think that he really gets it. Now, we're coming up on 250 years of our country in existence, as he mentioned there. And he talked about the history of the United States. It's not one of perfection. That's true. There's a lot of bad things that have happened in the United States history. And you can go down the list. You can start with the slavery. You could talk about the Tuskegee experiments. You can talk about basically the women's suffrage didn't exist. You could talk about race relations up until the civil rights movement, and then even post. You could talk about, there's a lot of bad things. You could talk about some of the less scrupulous wars that we have engaged in that maybe were unnecessary or maybe people were dishonest about. Like, America's not perfect. It isn't. But what he says is that our history is better than anyone else's. Now, the world has some great history. There's great empires that have risen and fallen, and you have, even now, you have modern empires like Britain. Like, the country of Britain has existed for a very long time, right? Britain is named after the Britons, who were a people that lived on an island. And so before, you're talking about a group of people before necessarily the modern nation state of Britain existed. That empire, quote unquote, has been around for a long time. The people have been around for forever. And then they were one of the mightiest empire in the world. And now it's just this little island that doesn't really have a lot of influence on the world. The point is, what I'm saying is, empires rise and fall. Everyone has history. We took a lot of things, and we share a lot of culture with Britain and the British people. But America's uniquely different. And it is because we really are, when you look at it, we are one of the countries in the world that do some things better than everyone else. And some of those things are falling away, but not really. It's still a place where our social mobility in this country is almost unparalleled at any point in human history. You can be born the poorest of the poor and wind up the richest of the rich. Our ability to move up the ladder is dictated by meritocracy more than anything else. Again, we can make an argument as to whether or not that is true today, but it is true still. When you compare it to other countries, our ability, the social mobility of Americans is different. The creedal aspect and the appreciation of individual autonomy and liberty is also a uniquely American trait. Now, you look around the world, you say, well, democracies exist other places. Representation exists. Freedom exists. You talk about, there's freedom in Canada. There's freedom in Britain. There's freedom in all through Europe and all these Scandinavian countries. It's not true. Not in the same way. And what I mean by that is right now in Britain, they arrest 200 people a day for posts they make on social media. In Canada, they turned protesters' banking access off because they were protesting in the streets. You don't have freedom in the same way you think about it in America. Like, the Bill of Rights is emulated by other people in the world. When they write their constitutions, they try and take it from the Bill of Rights. The idea that we have specific documents that are designed to protect Americans from the government, because the government was viewed with skepticism, because the people who wrote those documents were well-versed in philosophy and history and politics, and they looked around the world, and they were smarter than you, and they're smarter than me, and they put together this system that said, people are great, but they also are evil, and the government's made of people, and the government can be great, but the government can also be used for evil. So you created this system of checks and balances where everything had to work together to get things done, because they knew that the government can be abused. And they do that in other countries, and we don't do that as much in the United States. Not that we never did. It's just that, again, our history is better. We did things better than other people, and we do them better than other people. The way that we approach freedom and liberty in America is fundamentally different than other countries. It is. There's George W. Bush had this line where he said, every soul yearns for freedom. This is not true at all. It's one of the... People always make fun of George W. Bush for saying sort of silly or dumb things. This was the dumbest thing he ever said because he really believes it, because he has this idea. And George W. Bush, despite what you may think, he's not a dumb person. He's not a dumb person. He said silly things. He had some memory lapses, but he's not dumb. He really does know things. He knows stuff, guys. He became president of the United States. He's not a dumb guy. But this was misguided because every soul doesn't yearn for freedom. Most souls yearn for protection. They want to be taken care of, but they don't yearn for freedom. Many people would fall very, very easily into the comfort of having a strong man who just tells them what to do. It's what people are accusing Republicans of right now. Well, Donald Trump's just a strong man. He's in a cult. It's the MAGA cult. It's silly. The Republicans still care about freedom more than the Democrats. All we have to do is look at COVID to know that that's true. The history of America is one of where we really do want freedom. We really value freedom on an individual level in this country. And it's not something that you see other places. Other places fall victim to collectivism, which is what the left in America here is doing. But you have this strong contingent on the right that understands that personal autonomy and individual liberty is the most valuable thing in the world, and they don't want to give it up. And Marco Rubio gets this. Marco Rubio understands this, and I love his speech. If you want to quibble with it, I could say, well, I don't think his first line is applicable. I don't think that America is just an idea. I kind of go down the Michael Knowles train here that says that America is also a people. Yes, it's creedal. Like, we have American values and American beliefs, but it's also people. The people who are in America are American. And some guy in China who might believe in everything America has to stand for, if it was just a creedal nation, why wouldn't he also be as American as anyone here? I don't think he is. I think that there's something about American culture that still is American, and the people here are still American, and someone can immigrate to this country, but I say, is somebody who immigrates and gets a visa and is an immigrant, are they just as American as somebody whose family has been here since the Declaration of Independence? No, I don't think that. I think you can be. And I think that you can embody American values, and I think that you're still an American. But it also is a people. If we took everybody in the world, we took 6 billion people on the planet, and we stuck them all in America and just said, you're all American citizens, do we think that just by saying everyone's an American now, that makes everyone the same and that they're just as American as me? No. They don't understand the country. They don't understand the norms. Maybe they don't speak the language of English, which is the language that is spoken in America. We speak American here in America. And so it is a people, it is a culture, it is a history, but it is also creedal, which is what makes it unique, because it's not just those things. You go to Japan, Japan is a people. The Japanese are a people. I could go to Japan, I could learn Japanese, I could live in that country. I'm not going to be Japanese. Japanese won't think I'm Japanese. They probably won't let me immigrate there in the first place. They have very strict laws on immigration. But they understand that they are a people. And America is different because America is not just an ethnicity. Like, there are white, black, brown, Asian Americans. And they're all American. Like, there's Dinesh D'Souza is a great example. Dinesh D'Souza is an immigrant. He's brown. He's from India. I would never say that Dinesh D'Souza is less American than me. And then you're going to say, Tyler, this is a contradiction. Didn't you just say immigrants? Let me tell you, Dinesh D'Souza understands America at a fundamental level. He embodies the American spirit in a way that some people don't. And you can look at him and you can see his patriotism and his love of country. And you understand that this guy gets it. He understands. When you hear him talk about freedom and liberty, or you read any of his books, you go, this guy gets it. He understands what it is to be an American. And so I say, yes, it's a people. And it's a history, and it's a culture. But it also is creedal. So someone like Dinesh D'Souza can come here, and he can embody the American spirit and culture in a way that even being a man from India, I'd say he's as American as me. Like, I understand that. But it's because all of those aspects are important. Like, yes, it is creedal, but also we have to acknowledge the history, the culture, the norms, and the people who have made this country. And yes, it is white, black, brown, I hate to say it, not as much Asian, built the country. I understand it's going to give me some hate. I understand the importance of the Asian Exclusion Act and the railroads. I understand this. But I'm saying the foundation of this country, it was built by white and black mostly, and then also Hispanics that came in, and then also Asians, but that's more of a modern phenomenon in the last 150 years as opposed to the 250 years. My point being, we have a country that is unique in the world because it's all of the things that every other country is, but the creedal aspect of American is uniquely American. The idea of freedom and liberty that is paramount to the foundation of this country and the protections that are given to us by our Constitution, by our Bill of Rights, the protection from government. Other countries, the government is basically all-powerful. Even in Europe, where we think of them as democratized and as enlightened as us Americans, us crude Americans, they think of themselves as more refined. Well, it's still a king in England, okay? I don't want to hear about it. And they arrest people for tweets on the internet that, you can't say a man can't be a woman or criticize mass migration without being thrown in a jail cell, which is why somebody who talked to me about going to Toronto or going up to Canada, I said, I'm not going to Canada. I said, I won't do it. Do you understand that, it's the same thing I feel about Britain. The way I speak is literally a crime in other countries. I'm not a hateful person. There's nothing in me that is hateful towards anyone. But I am very critical on the infiltration of Islam into the West, not because Muslims can't be as great as everyone else. I know plenty of great Muslims. It's not a condemnation, but because many of the people imported don't share the cultural norms and values and also happen to be Islamists or jihadists. And you say, well, yeah, I don't really want those guys in the country. And people say, oh, you can't say that in Britain. I can't say, damn, maybe this mass migration was a mistake. Importing a bunch of people who want to behead you in the street is a problem. And people seem to think that's an issue. Anyway, I love this. I think that the next election, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, the next election is going to be interesting. Marco Rubio says he's not going to run if J.D. Vance is running. I don't know if I believe him. Maybe he won't. And maybe a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket would be great, but I don't know. I feel like I like J.D. Vance. I've got J.D. Vance. I've got his Hillbilly Elegy on the shelf back here. I read it. It's a great book. You can tell he's a smart guy. But I like Marco Rubio a lot, and I feel like my politics line up a lot more with his than J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is more of that isolationist, and the fact that he's such good friends with Tucker Carlson really gives me pause. I don't love that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there for the day. As always, people, questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I hope everyone enjoyed the interview with Louis Herms, by the way. That was a pretty fun opportunity for someone running for governor of California. That was pretty great to have him on the show, so I'm glad if everyone watched. Even if we're not in California, sometimes it's just nice to get out there and watch an interview with someone who's making a lot of sense. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. If your comment is sufficiently nasty, maybe I'll read it on the show next week. It's going to be great. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will catch you next Friday.